Good morning, Mike and Arlen, our Philippine journey. Thanks for dropping by. The three biggest lies that happen daily, coming out of YouTubers here in the Philippines. They keep repeating these three lies, and it's just nonsense. All right? I think you're going to be very surprised. Let's talk about it.
Why'd you have to go? I guess this world's too slow for you. I think there's beauty in the gray, the cold, but you just want the gold. And there's no way I can beat it, cause I got no chance when it comes to her. She got the glitter and the fame, and I just wasn't enough.
Okay, number one. I was not going to bring this up. I was going to actually do a video based on some events that are happening in the UK and the US, but because of an email string that I got involved with, I thought it was actually better to put this out. Number two, maybe lie, might be a strong adjective. Personally, I don't think so. I think anybody that says, well, I was mistaken, I didn't know, I just said what so-and-so said. You know what? When you've only got 5 brain cells and their total weight is less than 1 mice nut, then it's a lie. If you can't bother to do the research, or if you can't bother to look it up, or you can't bother to hire an attorney to get answers, well, then you're a scam. Period. End of story. But people repeat these over and over. They're like urban myths. So let's get going down this. The first one is we often get comments. All right, this is not uncommon whatsoever. Often get comments. Why would anybody be stupid enough to buy a piece of property when they're not a citizen of the Philippines? You can't become a citizen, so if you can't become a citizen of the Philippines, you cannot own land. And to a degree, that's partially true. You have to be a citizen of the Philippines to own dirt. Not exactly true, but we'll get to that. All right. However, that being said, the biggest jerk nut to this whole thing, all right, is yes, there is a path to citizenship for foreign nationals. I don't know what makes you think there's not a path to citizenship. I mean, it's been around since 1939, longer than most of you and me have been around. There's a path. There's a specific way. Now, actually, there are 2 ways. The first one is by decree, all right? Like you've got people that do something special for the Philippines. There's the ballerina that's married to this Filipino, and her gift of giving in the ballet world and everything to the Philippines got her Filipino citizenship. You've got Kuya, whatever his name is, the guy that last year was awarded citizenship. That's the administrative way. But there is a normal way, an absolute normal way. And you're going to say, no, Mike, and I'm going to tell you something right now. Here's the proof. And if you want to argue with one of these numbnuts that tells you there's no path to citizenship, here it is. Just that simple. All right? It's the Commonwealth Act of 1939, June 17th, 1939, number 473. An act to provide for the acquisition of Philippine citizenship by naturalization. All right? And then it actually gets rid of a couple of parts as well. And this goes through. Now, granted, I'm going to tell you, it's not the easiest thing to do, okay? You've got to learn one of the basic Filipino languages. You've got to be able to speak and read Filipino, Tagalog, say, and English. English is mandatory, all right? There are also some caveats in here about owning business or contributing to the community or stuff. But I mean, these are all things that are doable. All of them are doable. And there is a path. And believe it or not, it happens every year. People do get citizenship. Now, the PSA, the Philippine Statistic Authority, does not track those records. All right. I did everything I could to find them. You can't. They're not tracked. All right. Or they're not publicly tracked. But for people to tell you you can't become a Filipino citizen, they're wrong. They're simply wrong. They're lying to you, and they haven't done their homework in order to do that. That's the first issue. Now, the second lie, the second big lie, all right? And that is you can't own land. Well, that's not exactly true. There are a couple of ways you can own land, all right? We've talked about that before. You can inherit it if your Filipino wife and you buy land, she passes away, she has no minor children, you inherit it for the duration of your life, and then it must be disposed of otherwise. But there's a couple of other ways, and I want to talk to you about the one major way, the way that is always happening, the way that transpires all the time. This takes place all the time, and you're going to be surprised. You're going to be really surprised when you see some of the names that are on this list that do this. Okay? So let's just drop down to here. All right? The first thing you have to understand is the difference in stock. All right? Stock. You can have stock in a corporation. Class A, Class B, preferred, non-preferred, common, not common. There's all kinds. In the US, in the UK, and in Australia, this takes place. I know this because I own preferred stock in a company in the US, two companies in the US, and I own preferred stock in one company in Australia. So I know that this happens there. I looked it up. It happens in the UK as well. Now, who does this? Well, Google. Google has Class A, Class B, Class C. Berkshire Hathaway, okay? Berkshire Hathaway has Berk A and Berk B, Class A and Class B, all right? And the whole Meta, Ford Motor, other tech companies, Lyft, Pinterest, Zoom, Zoom video communications, CrowdStrike, and so many others. Now, what they don't list here, all right, is all of the private companies that do it. You can do it. It doesn't have to be just a publicly traded company. It can be a privately traded company. Well, then you can say, well, that's not the way it is in the Philippines, Mike. That's the way it is in the U.S. or wherever. Well, that's not exactly true either. Okay? So, yeah, the Philippines absolutely allows for different classes, all right, of stock shares. Whoops, there we go. With varying rights, privileges, and restrictions, as long as there's always a class with full voting rights. And, there's legal basis, voting basis, class common, preferred, founders, shares, constitutional compliance. For public utilities, the 60-40 Filipino ownership rule applies to each share for public utilities, all right, over capital, but not all private companies or public companies. Now, when we take this one step further, okay, who are some of these companies? Like I said, you're going to be surprised. How about Ayala? All right, has Class A and preferred stock. San Miguel Corporation. Globe Telecom. I mean, if you're familiar with the Philippines, you're familiar with every one of these names. Petron, First Gen, Benguet, Megawide, Phoenix Petroleum. Actually, I was never really familiar with them. So let me explain something, though, about how this works. So in a private company, you can have Class A and Class B stocks. The Class A stock is the only voting stock. So all your Filipino partners, everybody else that's going to constitute that 60-40 mix, they're all Class B. Only Class A in the bylaws, it's written, only Class A may vote. And in the bylaws, it's written that only a unanimous decision of the Class A and B, Class A stock, can change those bylaws. Well, now, if you own that, then that corporation. So, what do? You go out, you form a corporation, you form it under a real estate transaction corporation. You get some Filipino investors, 1,000 pesos each. You issue them Class B stock. You get, excuse me, still getting over this pneumonia. You issue them all of these things, but there's a management agreement between the Class A voting stock and yourself as to who manages the company, number one, and number two, voting. That's how you own and control land. And that's how some of these guys actually have foreign owners. Okay? Just the way it is. Telling you the honest truth. All right? Now, finally, the third biggest lie. There's no divorce in the Philippines. Well, I guess on a scale of 1 to 10, that's about only a 6 or a 7. There's no divorce. Divorce is not legal in the Philippines between Filipinos. Okay? It is not legal. It is not recognized. It is just the way it is. Although that's not exactly true either. It's not recognized here or done here, but we'll get to this next part. All right, so let's say you marry a woman here in the Philippines, and unfortunately things go south. What happens? How do you get a divorce? Are you going to she's going to end up being a married woman and you're going to be a married guy and you're living your lives separately? Nah. Easy enough. All right? I'm going to tell you right now, okay? This is what you do. What are the divorce requirements to get a divorce in Guam? All right? So, an uncontested divorce. And for enough money, in some cases none, in some cases a paltry amount, all right, your partner will be happy to provide a uncontested divorce. So what do you got to do? You hop on a plane, 4.5 hours or so later, you're in Guam, you check into a hotel, that starts your residency. 7 days afterwards, right, you only have to be a resident in Guam for 7 days to file for an uncontested divorce. The divorce gets done eventually, all right? There's a few little hoops you got to serve through. She's got to be served. There's a process for that. The whole 9 yards. And then you're divorced as far as the law goes. Now, this is for Americans. UK, I got no idea what you'd have to go through, if indeed you can. Australia, I got no idea what you'd have to go through. South Korea, fuck, man, I got no idea what you guys go through. I have none whatsoever. Okay? The point is, for Americans, yes, you can. You can have been married in the U.S. You could have gotten married here in the Philippines. You can file in Guam within 7 days. Otherwise, it's 90 days, then the process. All right? And then you just file the paperwork with the PSA, the Philippine Statistic Authority, and they recognize that as a divorce. Now, all of this information is easily obtained, but any decent attorney is going to be able to get you this. But my point with all of that isn't that you can do these things. All right? My point with this is simple. Number one, if you've got a YouTuber that's telling you other than this, then you need to have them corner them and tell them, hey, show me your receipts. Show me where it says I can't do this. Because here it is, it says I can. This is not Mike saying I can, all right? This is the Philippines saying I can. I can get citizenship, all right? I can get a divorce, all right? I can own a corporation that owns land. And there's more than one way to own a corporation. There's the Foreign Investment Act of 2020 as well. But that's going to cost you a fortune. It's much harder, the whole 9 yards. My point with everything is simple. You know, when you listen to YouTubers, listen to the YouTubers that provide the information to back up what their big effing mouth says. I've just given you that information. Let someone else tell you otherwise and show you otherwise. And then I will challenge you to this. Okay? I will pick a day within the next 2 weeks, and I will be at the rooftop at Candy Palace, and I will buy your first cup of coffee for the first 10 people that show up and actually want to talk about this and to understand it better, that want to understand how Class A and Class B stocks work, how preferred stocks work, how the citizenship thing goes with more detail, how divorce works with more detail. All right? I'm happy to do that. Get some of these other YouTubers to do that as well. And your first cup of coffee is on me. So, in the comments below, tell us what you think about it. How many times have you been lied to? How many YouTubers have lied to you about it? All right? And then we'll discuss it. Secondarily to that, please do like, subscribe, and hit the thumbs up. All right? And then finally, more so, we're going to talk about some of the bonehead shit that America is doing that is going to send them down the same sewer pipe that the UK is in. All right, the UK is totally trashed itself, and it's just going to get worse. So let me know what you think. All right? Otherwise, have a great day. Be safe. Be good.